Connie the Canoe Lady. We're glad you're here today for our live show. And our special guests are Fulton Love and J.M. Sikes, two old fishermen. And here they're going to tell their stories today on our stage.
Well, you didn't have to say about the old now. Yeah, I was just reminiscing a little bit with J.M. just before we started about, me and him was back when we was hunting gators back when it was illegal to hunt them, but we had kids and you did whatever you had to do to make a living. And we were over in Rockfish Creek, which is a creek that runs off of the Ogeechee, and there was a gator about 8 foot, and you couldn't get close enough to him to shoot him. And J.M. grunt him, he'd get him almost close enough, and I'd hit the boat with the oar or something, and he'd sink. And so J.M. said, "Run me up there to that sandbar and put me out." And so I pushed the boat up there, and he said, "Back off about 100 yards and wait till you hear the gun shoot." I said, "You feel pretty sure you're gonna kill him?" He said, "Yeah, I'm gonna kill him." And so he got out there and laid down on the sandbar, and I backed up, and he took the lens he had on the headlight. We used a clear lens, and J.M. had took the lens and put some fingernail polish or some lipstick or something on it, but it dulled that lens, and he could get closer to them gators with that dull lens than he could that bright one. But anyway, I backed off, and back then all we used was a single barrel gun because it was easy to clean. And I heard "bow." And I come up there with the boat, and he had shot that gator as close as from here to that chair, and the gator was laying there. It was a little over 8 foot long. And back then it was not like they do now. They just basically just almost tamed it. They're shooting out there now. Back then you had to be a gator hunter to kill gators. And me and J.M.'s been messing around that river all our life. We fished together for a while, and he fished. He crabbed some. When he was crabbing, I was probably catfishing, and he did a lot of sturgeon fishing, and I was more a cat fisherman and a shad fisherman than I was about anything else. But J.M.'s caught his share of sturgeon too.
Yes, I have. I caught more than anybody else ever catch on this river.
I agree.
I caught a lot of sturgeon.
Yeah. First one I ever caught, I had to go down and get Mitchell, who was his dad, to show me how to do the rope. They had those boxes. You remember the box?
Yeah.
You'd have a coarse grade screen in it that would pull the membrane out of the roe, and then you had another one that sifted it beyond that, and all you put in it was salt. You salted it, and that when Matthews would buy it, he'd stick his finger in there. Bub, that sure is good. Until the price. When he come back the price, said, "Well, you got a little bit too much salt in it this time. That price is gonna be down a little bit." But when J.M. and them was really catching them, though, they was getting a real good price for I don't know exactly what it was, but I heard it was somewhere around $30, $40 a pound. But I wasn't sturgeon fishing then. But me and him did a lot of stuff together. We shad fished together and all. I'm told taking all the time, Jim. You need to tell some of these sea stories too.
All I done was ever fish. I have gator hunting. I've been a lot of places I didn't supposed to go to gator hunting.
Right.
Hey, about that sturgeon fishing, can you tell us about the biggest one you ever caught?
Biggest I ever caught was 558 pounds.
That was a big one. Yeah.
We carried him down to Harold Boone's down there. Cut him. He had 98 pounds of roe in her.
Jeez.
That was a big fish.
Yeah. What a fish like that?
That thing was like this. I mean,
what a fish like that bring, J.M.? Or do you remember?
I don't know what that fish was. I believe that. Well, I can remember that fish was brought around between $4,000 and $5,000.
One fish.
In that neighborhood.
I
Yeah.
bet you went to find another one of those.
Well, I caught several of those.
Yeah.
Not quite that big, but real big ones.
Yeah. Why did they shut the fishery down?
They said that something about the short-nosed sturgeon or something, and then it got scarce, and they just closed the whole, They ain't supposed to close nothing but a short nose sturgeon, but it closed the whole thing down.
Yeah. Well, they said that they couldn't figure a net that could make that short-nosed sturgeon, which was on the extinct species list, keep him from sticking his head in there. You check the nets every couple of hours anyway. If you caught one, you went there and tied his tail and just tied him to the cork line to the slack water. And, you know, but it was somebody, one had died, and they said, well, they're gonna kill them all. There ain't gonna be none left.
Well, you know, your short-nosed sturgeon pulling was going with 8, 10, 12 pounds.
Right, right.
So what we fish, that take a small mass net. To
Right,
catch it.
yeah, that's right. Y'all was fishing what?
12 inch.
Yeah, 12 inch.
Them kind of fish go down through our net.
Right.
They wouldn't even know he went through it.
I think one thing that
He weighed 150 pounds. I mean, we didn't catch it.
right. The meat, the bucks, it wasn't worth that much anyway.
That's why
you know,
that's why you fish big webbing on the kind of. We didn't want that kind of small fish.
You was after that roe fish.
How do y'all think the population now is of the
There's
sturgeon?
plenty of sturgeon.
Good,
There's
real
plenty of
good.
them out there.
I see them jump all the time in front of the house. I don't mean no little mammooses eating the mammoose and the baby
sturgeon.
one. I'm talking about big sturgeons. Yeah,
But they still say they ain't none though.
yeah. It's the only thing I don't know, and I don't know whether it's pollution or I know they had an ocean intercept fishery that we put a stop to that for the shad, but there's no shad on the Ogeechee River. Whether that plant up there did it or something other else, or some breaks on the 7 Mile bend, or just what it is, but accidentally was 1 or 2 fish caught this year. And I tried to call DNR to get them to take some webbing, and that's full moon in March, that's when your biggest runner shad used to be. And get them to somebody to come and make a drift or 2, see what was out there. And never did hear nothing back from it. And, but you know, they have money for research all the time, but then when somebody gives them a direction to go in, that they know something, it seems like it's just like a pulling teeth to get them to do it. And like this problems with the river with pollution. When Georgia Southern and the University of Georgia had that grant to check that water, they was checking it, and I kept asking them. I said, "How's the water look? Was it well? We running tests." And they'd pull up a willow bush, and they'd have all kind of bugs on it, and there's oohing and all. I know, well, man, this is look at him. Here's a Leroy Groover. Him, what I don't know what the name of the bug was, but anyway, they was talking about it. So finally, after about a year, I asked them. I said, "Well, y'all got to know something." I said, "What does the water quality look like?" And that's when they had that plant pretty much shut down. They said, well, we hadn't ever done a study any further back than 1980, and this water quality is as good as what it was in 1980. That's when I started back catfishing. I'd quit because I didn't want to catch no fish, make nobody sick or anything. And that's when I started back to fishing. And but if you don't stay behind it, it's our job. Is the Lord put it here for us. It's our job to look after it. And you know, if we sit on our behind and let them get by with it, it's our fault. And if these politicians won't do something about it, we need to get them out of office and get somebody in that it will. Yeah.
I grew up right at Rabbit Hill,
Richmond Hill.
Richmond Hill, all my life. I was born in Rabbit Hill and stayed there till I was a grown man.
Yeah.
That's all I ever do is fish. I fished ever since I was big enough to stand up in a boat.
Him and his dad and his half brother, all of them. That's all they ever did.
I've caught a many fish out that river.
Yes.
When did you stop fishing?
Well, they closed everything down where I couldn't fish. I mean, they closed, they stopped shad fish, they stopped sturgeon fishing, and then, I mean, there wasn't nothing to do.
Have they stopped commercial catfish?
No, there was
No.
like catfish, but
Bait's so high, if I didn't have a restaurant to sell them through, I couldn't make no money at it.
And where they had the saltwater limits at, the freshwater limits at, I mean, if it got real salty, we couldn't put a baskets out for the crab.
Yeah.
And we couldn't go on up where we could fish. I mean, they had it closed, we couldn't go up there. I mean, we just had to quit.
Yeah.
I mean, fully to tell you, I mean, you put a catfish trap down there, a few catfish get in it, go back to the hotel, the catfish trap be eat out.
Yeah. You wouldn't believe it, but we make traps out of size 15 twine webbing. And them crabs will cut a hole in it, just like scissors going through it. Yeah.
And you go back, there'll be number bones in there where they eat the catfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, then eat them up when they eat them. I mean, you can't make a living like that.
No.
I mean, there's no way you can make a living like that.
What kind of boats did y'all start with? Because, I mean, you had motorboats?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wood cypress boats.
Yeah, wood cypress boats.
Yeah. We traveled just about as much with a pair of oars as we did with an outboard motor. And a lot of times they had a double set of oars where you'd have both people pulling.
Both people pulling.
Yeah. Well, it was
a motor.
There wasn't nothing for us to take off and go, I'd say, from like where Jones's Lake is here to where the Sound is down there. We just take off, you carry a coffee pot and something to cook, because you're going to catch some fish, and some cornmeal and salt and pepper, and that's basically, it might be gone a couple of days if you're lucky enough to have a little ice, whatever fish you caught or whatever, you butchered them, brought them back in the next day or 2 days and sold them.
Back those days, it was real enjoyment of fishing the river. It was. I mean, it was real nice to get out there, and do fishing back in them days.
Do y'all agree that the river does not look like it used to?
It don't look like it used to.
The sandbars don't.
The water changed color. The water used to be real clear.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty clear, and now it's black. The water changed color and everything in there. Sure has. Fuller knows that good as I do.
Yeah.
It changed color. It used to be so clear. I mean, you stick your hand down in there, you can see it going right on.
That's right.
And now you put it down in there, it will go so far you can't see it no more. The river's changed color all. We got black water. Well, Canoochie's up.
Yeah.
That's where your black water comes from, out of Canoochee River.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a rise in the river.
Yeah.
But it ain't that way no more. It's all black.
Could y'all tell that something was happening to our river before we all knew?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, we could.
Sure could.
I could.
Yeah.
Definitely could tell you.
Yeah.
If something happened to our river before it did. I can remember fully tell you, we built catfish traps out of grapevine, wire, and poles.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be this big around.
Yeah.
But you go out and put 4 of them out, and that's all the catfish you get back in that boat to bring home. It'd be 8 foot long and about this big around. But that's all the catfish when you dumped them 4 in the boat, you had all you wanted. I mean, that's the way fish used to be in that river.
Yeah. It was, it didn't take us.
Every other day you went, you just have that many fish. You depend on them, they was there. All you had to do is go get them. But it ain't like that no more.
Yeah,
that's gone.
I've hauled them all up to lines and all.
Yeah, everywhere, medium, I hauled them everywhere.
Yeah.
By day lines.
Yeah. But then we kind of looked up. Finally, they got a guy out of Georgetown, South Carolina, that was buying catfish off of Lake Marion and all over there. And he was carrying them down to Stokes in Leesburg, Florida. Stokes would buy them all. We didn't know where he was carrying them. But he'd come by and he'd buy all we could catch. So we could fish as many traps as what we could skin. But see, back then, we had live cars. We'd come in and we'd have strings of big live cars that we could dump the fish in and keep them live till we got ready to skin. And he'd come by once a week to pick the fish up. So the day before he come, we'd pull all our fish out, skin them, and have them where they'd be fresh and look good and all. And we raised a family doing that. And as soon as catfish season kind of went, catfish season used to start around September, last part of August, as soon as it started getting cold, and it run through until about January, as soon as shad fishing started, we still catfish a little bit. That wasn't the main thing then. Then we chased shad. And when shad showed up, me and him been on Savannah River sleep 4 hours in a whole week. You'd say, well, first drift I catch, and I don't care, have at least 13, we'll take a break. First drift I make, you don't have at least 18, we'll take a break. And he was catching 30 and 40 shad every drift. And I mean, the drifts weren't that long. And finally, you'd be the season, the only thing in Carolina, we had a Carolina license and a Georgia license. And you had like a half a day that you couldn't fish either side. So that half a day was really kind of the only break we got. If the fish showed up, shame on them, because we tried to stop everyone that was coming. We was after them. Yeah.
But we used to, like Fulton said, we used to have shad for Christmas. I mean, I seen my daddy go out there and catch shad for Christmas.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Season opened January 1st, but we always had a shad for Christmas. Yeah. Yeah.
What was Christmas like?
Christmas was, to me, it was good because it was, we had regular groceries. We didn't. I can't remember going out to eat until after probably I got married, other than a drive-in somewhere. But Mama cooked 3 meals a day. I mean, it was biscuits, and then she had grits and egg in some form for breakfast, and then it'd be black-eyed peas or lima beans or something of that nature, and rice, and either pork chops or we eat a lot of cube steak back then. It was, and we didn't throw away nothing. The grits was left. She'd take and fry that grits, make a grits cake to go for them. You didn't throw away anything, because if it was a little something left, the chickens got it. We didn't throw away anything. It's not like it is now.
And back when I was young, at Christmas come around, I mean, there was always something for my daddy to do. He always had money. I mean, he always had money because it was something to do. One season behind the next, it was something for him to do. And, he always had money. We always got something for Christmas. We wouldn't get much, but we got a little something. And plenty to eat. We had plenty to eat all times. He raised his own hogs, killed his own hogs and everything. Fulton Daddy done the same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
And I can remember Fulton's daddy had plenty of hogs up there.
Yeah, we used to have over 300 head.
Yeah.
Cut any Christmas trees?
Yeah, we
We
cut
had
them.
Christmas tree. We go cut one and put.
Yeah, cut it.
Well, we didn't have no electric. Back when I was a youngin', we didn't have no electricity, but we had bulbs hung up on there, A big old bulb like this. We didn't have no Christmas lights like we got now. We burning all the time. We didn't have nothing like that.
We had some, but it might have been one string.
We didn't have no refrigerators, nothing like that. We always bought ice by 300-pound blocks and put it in a big old cooler Daddy had built there. And he put it in there, about 600 pounds of ice. That'd last a whole week till Iceman come back around.
Yep.
I can remember it so good.
Yeah.
When did all that change?
All of it changed when electricity and all started. And everybody started buying refrigerators and freezers. I mean, that changed all that.
How old were you?
Huh? How old I was back then? I was probably about 10, 12 years old in that neighborhood.
I remember Mama used to, if she could get the money, she'd buy them Swift premium hams. And I had some friends of mine come over. We was playing softball, and I cut them all enough ham off there to make all of them a sandwich, and it wound up being more than I thought it was going to be. And pickings was kind of light that rest of that week, I tell you. You remember stuff like that, though. I mean, I wasn't trying to take anything away from the family, but it was tight. I remember right after the First World War, I had my sister, and she was still in a stroller. And Mama heard what it was. Somebody had some chocolate syrup for sale, and it was like 10 or 12 or 15 blocks away, and she loaded my sister Thelma up in the stroller, and me and her, and went off, and I can see it right now, bought a whole gallon a chocolate syrup. I don't know what she paid for it. The man was selling it out of his garage. But, you know, people back then, half the lens on your car was painted black. They didn't want no light shining up because they was, I guess, during the war, they didn't want anybody to be able to see a whole lot of light from this country. And it was, I can remember Daddy having stamps, you know, gas stamps and stuff like that. I don't know whether they had food stamps, but they had gas stamps, so you couldn't buy with so much gas. And he was a policeman, and he got plenty of liquor. I think he knew a lot of people, and my family was back then. They all pretty much made good liquor too, and it was just another way of they made a living. I never made no liquor. It wasn't that I was above doing it. I just never did fall into that side. I know there's creeks down there towards where J.M. lives, one down there called Shine Joint, because it had so many shine stills up in it. And there's one up the river called Broughton Street, because it had so many lanterns hanging in it. There was so many stills in it.
A lot of liquor back in the day.
Yeah.
People did.
Them creeks, there used to be plenty of them, had them old rings in them, where the wood barrels and had the hoops, and they had to hold them. And they used to be, whenever they broke all the liquor stills up, there used to be piles of them steel rings all laying around.
I found a few actually last week right here on this
Did you?
property.
Yeah.
I just brought it up here.
Yeah, they made liquor all over the place back them days.
Yeah.
I never get no liquor making either.
Yeah.
I always stayed out of that part.
Yeah. I tell you, a fishery, I don't know whether it's still good or not, but I made some good money at it, was the eel fishery. But then again, we was catching eels with horseshoe crabs. So then they said that we couldn't take any horseshoe crabs because it was starving the showbirds to death that was laying the eggs. So the horseshoe crabs was laying the eggs. So, you know, anymore, it's a steady battle to try and find a niche to still make money on the river.
It's hard to make it on the river anymore.
It is.
You couldn't make a living on the river no more, no way, because everything's closed down, but you can't make it.
Unless it's crabbing. I don't know that much about the crab fishery anymore, but the crabbers may be doing all right, I don't know.
Well, they closed all the crab plants now. I mean,
Yeah, there ain't a picking plant in
no
Georgia.
picking house nowhere. Where you gonna sell them if you catch them?
That's right. Ain't a
You
picking
place to
house
sell
here.
crab. I mean, what you gonna do there? These little places in town, time you catch a few, they cut you off.
Yep,
Maybe crab 2 days a week. Can't make a living like that.
yep.
There's too many people make a living crabbing 1 or 2 days a week, working 1 or 2 days a week. I always had to work at least 5 or 6 days to make a living, then everything got done.
The crabs we getting for the restaurant, the pick meat is coming out of Gulf of Mexico. And it's on telling where the crabs are coming from. They may be picking them down there, but they may be coming out of Mexico or somewhere else.
Ain't no telling.
But the last one I knew of was Sea Gardens down there. And,
Yeah, they've been closed.
He tried to continue on with conchs. He was processing whelk, I think is the right name for them. And it finally got where he shut down too. I don't know if he's doing anything other than the ice house down there now. But it ain't. It's not I don't even know if it's one in Carolina. It used to be Blue Channel over there was the biggest there was in the United States crab factory, and it closed. And when J.M. was crabbing,
Yeah, we sell them over there.
he used to leave Redbird Creek, and he was fishing 100 traps, and there was them old wood traps with the concrete in them, them old wood slat traps, and he'd pull from Redbird Creek to where Vaughn's was on, it wasn't Wilmington Island, what was it? It was Pinpoint. Sell the crabs there, have a boatload, turn right around and skip the first 2 traps and pull back and have another boatload to carry to Lewis Crab Factory.
I did.
Yeah. And there was plenty, but back then, what were they, 3 cents, a nickel a pound?
Made
good money though.
3 cents a pound, made money.
Buy cocoa for a nickel.
I caught so many, you could
Yeah.
make money.
That's right. You didn't have to carry a pocket full of money and full wash tub full of credit cards back then.
That's for sure. Always had money.
Yeah.
Put something
Very little was done with checks. Mostly all of it was cash
Yeah.
money back then. They paid you off in cash, and you know, but everything was, you know, if the plant, if you rolled up there and it was somebody on the dock and there wasn't nobody there to pay you, you just got you a script, a piece of paper, and they, you knew the money was good. But like talking about getting back to shad, they, J.M. can remember when there was, I believe it was L&W truck line in Darien.
Yeah.
Run 3 trucks a week between the fish off the Omaha and the Ogeechee and the Savannah River to New York. They'd have to run three tractor trailer loads a week up there, and they out of business now. They're not
Yeah,
even
yeah,
down there no more.
I remember, I remember me and Roy put 50 boxes on there, 50, 75 boxes of
Right.
cat a week on that truck.
Right.
That's 2 boats fishing out there on the
That's
Ogeechee.
right.
We caught fish back
Yeah.
then. There was plenty of fish.
Yeah.
Does
And
y'all
they
have, were these outboard motors that y'all use? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Had outboard motors.
Hondas?
Most of them Evinrude back then.
Evinrude,
Johnson
Evinrude,
There wasn't
Johnson.
A Honda wasn't never thought of back
We
then.
did. I didn't know what a Honda was. Yeah. You just mentioned a Yamaha. I thought that was a motorcycle or something.
No Honda.
Yeah. And back then it was 2 people to the boat. Roy was the first one that I can remember that ever come up with a rig to steer the boat where you could shad fish by himself, put the net out, because you had to put the net out while the other man was pulling the boat backwards to go across where you could stretch it across the river. And you could set a net by yourself, but if the river was up and you had to drift all the time, it took 2 of them. And Roy come and rigged up a boat when the motors first come out with a gear shift on it. And he rigged up one. He had a stick on this side of the boat that he could put it in forward, and a stick on this side he could put it in reverse. It was like this. It wasn't both of them on the same side. And then he rigged the axe handle where he could steer it in the middle, steer the boat. And it was, far to my knowledge, that's the first boat that I ever seen that anybody could drift by itself.
Now, when you say drift, are you drifting down the river?
Yeah, you go up to what we call the head of the drift, and you'd put the net out. You'd put the buoy out in the deep side of the river where the water's running the strongest, and then you just made like a half moon with the rest of the net, and you was on the other side, and you strike down, keeping up with that buoy. If the buoy started running faster, you made that end of the net run faster too. And then whenever you got down, you swung the boat around and made a pocket out of the net for the fisherman to haul the net to get the fish out. A lot of times you catch him, he wouldn't be gilled, but you had that pocket in the net and you could work him in there and get him in that pocket. But if that shad wasn't in a hurry, he'd get there and bump it, and he might just lay there. If it got late in the season now, he'd plow into it like a bulldozer. He'd hit it.
Yeah, one of those farms.
Yeah. And back then, Jerry, I'm talking about sturgeon fishing. I've had 3, 4 of them go through the net on one drift. That puts you out of business for shad fishing, because the lead line would be dragging the bottom, it'd hang, you'd have to go to the hill and fix it. But
I used to catch a lot of sturgeon. I caught had 9 one day, 9 cows in one day.
good God.
Still have.
Well, it's good to be close to a rich man like that.
I ain't rich, but I did. I have caught 9 in one day. Some 5 or 6 a day was a regular thing.
What was Roy's son, the one that got drowned?
Daniel.
Yeah, he caught a big one too.
Yeah.
Daniel did catch a big one, yeah. But sturgeon was, I never did, I caught a few, but I never did sturgeon fish like J.M. did or the Sikeses. But I was more into catfishing.
Can you talk about some of the hazards that you experience in this, like what dangers and all are you going to face on the river?
It's every time you went out there. I mean, you run into logs, run up on a snag, knock a hole in the bottom of a wood boat. The boats back then were pretty small, and hell, you put too much load of fish into them, you was in danger of. I have one or two. have so many, get so many fish in it.
Yeah.
And if it ever started down, the only thing you was thinking about is how close am I to the hill to swim out? Because there wasn't no way of bringing it back. And but yeah, I've sunk a few with too many fish into it. It's hard to quit though.
I
when you
sunk
catch
one night with catfish, and it was 16 degrees,
Ooh.
and I was at least 5 miles from anywhere from any hill.
And you sunk?
Yeah, sunk it. Yeah, it was 16 degrees. I swam to the hill. It walked all the way out to the road, caught a ride. And my wife was still, she sat there. The pool was up there waiting on me out there at the park. I sunk it at that creek right there, pulling right up there at the mouth of the canoe. What's the name of that creek? You go up in there?
Butler Creek?
Butler Creek.
Yeah.
Where I sunk it right there.
Yeah.
It went down and rolled over bottom upwards.
Oh,
The catfish.
yeah.
I should have never tried to put the last bunch in there.
Well, you hate to make that second trip.
It sunk. That's a long walk across that slope.
Ooh.
Any trouble from alligators or anything like
No, there wasn't much alligators back
But,
them days.
What about big cats? Y'all seen a bunch of big cats on that river?
Yeah, that's all. We
Yeah.
catch them. I mean, a lot of big cats.
Nothing like these big cat they catch on Omaha, but I've caught them, up in the 40-pound range before.
No, I'm
Well,
talking
we-
about wildcats.
Oh, yeah, there used to be a good many bobcats and
Yeah.
stuff up there. But I ain't never seen no long-tailed cats that they always talk about. I've heard something hollering, and I felt like that's what it was. But actually, me say I've seen one, no. I thought I did one time, but I think I was just imagining it. I was wanting to see one so bad that I think I imagined I seen one.
that? So typically what happened if there was some distress, you sunk the boat, you walked to the road and you had a ride. But like you wouldn't have cell phones, like we don't have
No,
cell
we
phones.
didn't have no cell
We
phone.
break down in the river, we call somebody. So what happens, how long did it take can you just talk about like the,
Well, the time didn't seem to, like I say, if we had a motor, it was a 5-horse. It was not a big motor. Like right now, I mean, hell, a little motor's a 40-horse motor now. And so we were pretty much used to not getting around real fast anyway. And when we anchored out a catfish trap, we didn't. Well, now we drag for it with the motor. We just come up and drag with and pick it up with the drag with the motor. But back then we shut the motor off, took the oars and drug for it. And if the traps weren't too far apart, hell, we'd jump on the oars and pull to the next trap. We wouldn't take and put the motor on, because a lot of times when the motor went on the stern of the boat, most of the boats back then that we fished in were sharp-pointed boats. We had some that was butt-ended on both ends where the shad fished out of, but it was more aggravation to pick that motor up, put it back on there if you on the stern than it was just to take the oars and pull on to the next trap. Or sometimes if it was 4 or 5 boats on the drift and you'd caught 18, 20, 30 shad on that drift, you'd just take the oars and pull back up and give him time to take the fish out of the net. And a lot of times, I don't know about J.M., but a lot of times, I didn't care a whole lot about fishing until about 12, 1 o'clock at night, when most of them part-time fishermen that had jobs in town, they had to go home and go to bed because they had to get up the next morning and go to work. And then it pretty much opened the river up for us full-time fishermen then.
Yeah.
Then we'd go to the furthest up, I've drifted on up, but the furthest I used to run on regular was what we call platform, where Sawhouse Creek is. And I'd go right there and then I'd make that drift. I might catch 18, 20 fish off of that drift, but I'd take the fish out of it and go to the next drift, the next drift, the next drift, right on down. And then when I put the motor on the boat, I run all the way back to the platform and come back through again, instead of jumping in, grabbing that motor, putting it back on and hauling the butt back up to make that same drift again. And we just, because the fish was everywhere back then. There was plenty of fish. Back then, you'd be sitting there cussing these osprey or these fish hawks. I'd be sitting there at Greenbush looking, I'd say, Uncle Lambert, there ain't gonna be nothing left by the time you can see 3 stars put the net out, because the damn fish hawk's gonna be eat them all up. And you'd see 4 or 5 of them with a shad and the claws catching them. and you don't see none of that anymore. But
So, Mr. Sikes, like after y'all caught a haul of a fish, what then? Where would you take it? Just tell me the process of selling the fish.
We carried Savannah, a lot of sturgeon. Now we carried the Dare, Boone's Fish Dock in Dare. The front dock, that's where they sold them Harold Boone down there. That's where a lot of sturgeon went. And most all of our sturgeon went there. After I quit processing myself, when I processed them, I sold them Frank Matthews in Savannah, the eggs. But he started paying a big price for them down there, and he wanted to do his own. I mean, he had a certain way he wanted to do his own eggs, and he paid us good money for them. After he got them treated and all, like he wanted them, he paid us a lot of money for those eggs down there.
So these are the Italians?
No,
Boone's weren't. The Boone's weren't, but
no, he wasn't. He was
just a cracker. Yeah. Who'd you sell the shad to, J.M.?
huh?
Who'd you shoot?
We sell them to town to Frank Matthews, Russo.
Yeah.
So we started shipping them to New York, Baltimore, and everywhere in the world. I mean, we shipped them everywhere to the big companies. We started catching so many of them that we had to,
Yeah.
When did the Italians come in?
Well, now, there used to be a group of Italian fishermen come in down there. Yeah. They come in on, they come in with little sailboat looking things. And you couldn't understand them. They all fished down. They fished down on the 7 Mile Bend and
down
below.
there.
Yeah.
What were they fishing for?
Shad.
They went from river to river.
They started down in Florida, and they followed them right on up the coast.
That's all they know is shad fish.
We'd sit there and pray for the sand gnats to get bad, because they usually run them. They was hard fishermen, though.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Says the Russos.
Russo was a buyer now.
He was a buyer.
Yeah, he was a buyer, and the Russo and the Matthews family's all the same thing.
Yeah.
See, Russo married Matthews' daughter, so he married A.C.'s daughter. He married A.C. Matthews' daughter. It was 3 brothers, A.C., Frank, and Lewis.
Yeah.
And Lewis just shut his place down about a year ago. But it was a different. They would come be sitting there waiting on you when you got to the hill. Russo would.
Yeah.
See, Russo and
Called his daddy.
he was one of the only ones I knew that could bone shad. I'm sure that Frank and Lewis could do it too, but I never did sell a lot of fish. I sold some to Frank, but I sold more to Russo than I did anybody else.
I sold a lot to all of them.
Yeah.
And those guys, they lived in town, or they lived out here, or?
No, they stayed. I've yet to stay in Savannah. I guess.
Yeah. See, Frank.
That's where the business was at.
Yeah, Frank had a fish market right where, I know you don't know what I'm talking about, but there used to be the old city market. I remember when it was still there.
Yeah.
Frank Matthews had his store right next. It used to be in City Market. Then he moved it right next door to it. Yeah. And then Frank Matthews also had the shrimp dock at Lazaretta Creek.
Still got it.
So yeah, so he had his fingers in just about all the seafood business. His son is still running out that dock down there. Yeah. Yeah, that was. In fact, I know there was. I can't recall the guy's name. I can see his face right now, but he said, "I ain't selling my shad to A.C. Matthews, and I'm gonna ship my own shad, and because they be bringing." He said, "I checked, they bringing more money up north." So back then, you boxed them and you nailed a lid on top of it and all, and you put it on. Some of them truck drivers would take one fish out of each box, and when he got to New York, he'd have about as many fish as what we had. But anyway, he shipped 2 boxes up there, and when he did, AC come to buy fish. He'd come every day. Sometimes if he was running, he'd come 2 or 3 times down to Kings Ferry to pick them up. And he come to the guy. He said, "I got some money for you, bub." He said, "What you got some money for me for, Mr. AC?" He said, "Well, you sent some fish up to New York. They didn't know who they come from, anything, and said they just sent the money back to me." And he paid he paid him 10 cents a pound. That wasn't quite 10 cents, but almost 10 cents a pound less than what if he'd have sold them straight to AC. But see, they was all. I mean, that was almost like mafia up there. Yeah, it was. If you sold fish back then, you pretty much had to go through. Me and J.M. and Roy was the first ones that would start shipping direct out of fish off the Ogeechee up there, because they had it sewed up. You couldn't move a fish unless it went through them.
So when we started off, we didn't really get introductions. Could y'all do like introduce yourself, tell who you are, and we'll start with you, Mr. Love.
My name's Fulton Love. I own a seafood restaurant, and I'm a commercial fisherman, and I've made a living off of the Ogeechee River for now. I'm 81, and I started when I was 11 years old for about 70 years. Yeah.
My name's J.M. Sikes, and I probably started before I was 11 years old. And I was a commercial fisherman. Now I'm a commercial beekeeper, because I started doing something after close all the rivers. Now I'm a commercial beekeeper, me and my wife.
You keep bees?
Yes, ma'am.
You produce honey?
Yes, ma'am.
He's won all kind of awards and all.
Oh, I won tons of awards. I mean, tons of them.
Make some of it.
What do y'all think we need to do to save this river? And don't answer my question. You say how you think it should be saved.
I think the only way you're gonna save this river is to clean it up from these everything dumping in. I mean, you just got something that to be done. Get the water back the same color it was, and we get back the fish we used to have. But I believe if we ever get the water back, where you can see your hand 3 or 4 foot deep in this river, I believe a fish will come back. But you know, I just think all that black water, that's something turning it black. They're putting something to make it black, and that's got to be pollution or something. I mean, there's something in there.
I'll tell you something else, J.M., that I don't know what the cause is, whether it's clear cutting or what, but you know, we don't get no big freshets in this river no more.
No, we don't get no rain like we used to.
See, man, we used to be, I've seen it whenever it'd be 2 or 3 months, river run one way. I mean, on a horse.
Yeah.
You don't see that no more. If it gets up, it's gone within 6 or 7 days. It's out of here.
All them big creeks that's up down, there used to be a little gutter like that, and you can go through with a shrimp boat now, something, whatever you want to go through, barge, big barges and everything. The creeks were so big, all that salt water dumping in here.
That's part of it, but I think it's something else too. And I think, if you think about it, it's like a dam, 95 running across that. Look like that would slow that water down if it was coming. If something else is happening above when we get in this rain, that something else is happening to the water, and I don't know what it is.
All such stuff happens to the water. Like, hey, it's the water doing it.
It's that pollution. You know, I don't know whether septic tanks do that much to the river. I'm sure it contributes some to it, but I think the river's too small to be able to put plants on it. It just is not. It's when the river is dry, it's really it's almost like a ditch up there. It's not big enough to handle any waste off of any big commercial plants and stuff. And it's a fact that it ruined Savannah River back in the 20s and 30s, and they say it's stuff in that river that would take 200 years to clean up if they was to start doing it right now. And you know, I think it's in better shape than what it used to be. But because I know me and J.M. fished over there, I ain't gonna tell you what all we caught over there fishing.
Me neither. I wouldn't tell nobody what all
right. But you know, we was chasing fish, but it's a lot better than what it used to be. But this river can't stand what Savannah River can stand. It's not capable of handling the stuff. And again, I will say that if we don't get our universities that's got the knowledge, the smart folks, and our politicians, our elected officials, to make sure that this is preserved. Hell, I'm 81, but I'd like to be able to see my grandkid go swimming or enjoy it, or be able to catch a mess of fish and be fit to eat or clean, you know, to have for the future. And it's that plus, like J.M. said about them canals, we tried his
My dad,
his
yeah.
dad and my
Oh.
dad sent boxes of shad
Yeah,
to
right.
New York to try and get Rockfish Creek
Try to
Dam
get it back
off.
dam. You know,
Yeah.
or-
And all they did was eat the fish and tell us how good they were, and never did nothing. And all it did, it got worse and worse. It's like a little cancer that just keeps growing. And what it's doing, it's a big break down there now. It dumps that salt water in
Gentlemen, could
an hour
you
and a half.
highway runoff?
Listen.
Yeah.
Highway runoff.
I know Fulton knows, and I know back when I was a young'un, 12 years old, down around Rabbit Hill down there, you go anywhere in there you wanted to and catch all the red breast, trout, any kind of freshwater fish you wanted. I mean, couldn't you pull it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty, all around the floodgates you go in, I mean, you catch
Plenty.
40, 50 red breasts in a few minutes.
Plenty of
Now
salt
you
water.
go and catch one now.
Yeah.
No, that's all gone.
So how many plants you were talking about, in industry, where is the industry?
Well, it's not just industry. It's like I'm gonna name Midville, Georgia. Their sewage system is not up to par. You got Millen, isn't it? It's sitting there. Their sewage dumps right into the Ogeechee River, and they got a big lump of the money in that last settlement to bring their system up to par. And my argument was, that's the burden on the people using that system. It's
Hey.
not the burden on everybody up and down
got
the river.
Richmond Hill, they
Them
dumping it.
taxpayers in that area ought to been responsible for that.
You know that? You got Richmond Hill, they dumping it.
Right,
everywhere.
Richmond Hill,
How about Savannah?
Georgetown
Yeah,
dump.
dumping into it down about
Yeah.
the highway down there by Railroad Bridge. They got a thing there. Pollution.
When they would, when I
You
mean,
need to go there sometimes in low water and see what comes out of it.
Uh-huh.
That's what you need to do. Go there and see what comes out of it. Then you say it's definitely not right.
it's
I mean, all that stuff's coming into the rivers. That's what it is. Pure pollution. What it is. That's all it is. Dang it is.
well, see, when they lost that or didn't get that grant renewed, it made a big difference in being the checks and balances on the river. There's nobody doing it now that I know of, not a soul. They went and put a sign up down at the railroad that this is where the affluence from Georgetown comes in, and I mean, we knew that before they did it. You know, that they were, and it's nothing you can do if they are abiding by what the federal law says. But if you have over abundance for some reason, they got to turn it loose. Ain't nothing they can do with it. That's Atlanta pays the fines all the time, and the oyster industry raises sand with them because it's coming right down, dumping on them oyster beds, and they don't have the facilities, or they don't want to upgrade the way they can handle the volume. That's just like right now, they raising sand, and I'm not against anybody making money, but they are raising sand over there now because they wanting 200, 300, 400, 500 more building permits. The roads can't handle Richmond Hill now. The sewage system is maxed out. So anything that they add to it, where's it going? It's going right into your river. And they dump in Sterling Creek now, and I think they got another one further down where they dump.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Every
No, we
place.
all just heard about waterways because they started.
And
Yeah.
I think you gotta wrap it up.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. They need to clean their rivers up. They bet. Look at Jericho. They went over there and built. Look at that big old plant they built on that river. I mean,
Yeah.
that was clean river. There wasn't
Yeah.
anything over there whatsoever in that river.
Yeah.
Nothing dumping in it. But they would go over there on what's the name of that road, Freeder? Goes through there.
That's Belfast Color.
Belfast Keller Road. Look at that big one they got built on Jericho there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
2 or 3 city blocks long.
Yeah.
They're dumping in there now. They'll mess that up.
And the public tried to fight it, but the people that's okayed the permits
That's
went
right.
right on.
That's
Yeah.
right. We tried to fight it, but they okay them. They let them do what they want to.
Yeah. J.M., did you ever fish any junk box lines?
No,
Yeah.
not me. You tried
Yeah.
some one time, but
Yeah.
They got
Yeah.
tangled up and the whole thing jumped in the river.
I caught a lot of fish with them too. But it's it's so time consuming.
Okay, so I have one of those junk boxes in my office in there. Thought
Yeah.
it was a bee box.
Right.
And Fulton saw it and said, "That's an antique fishing trap." I said,
Yeah.
"Okay, I thought it was a bee box."
Yeah. They go to
Anyway,
crabbing
we
it.
want to thank Fulton and J.M. Sikes for being here today. I think everything they told us about this river is very important, and I hope everybody sees this. And we want to thank y'all for coming, and we hope y'all will come back again.
It'll
Well,
take
And
it'll,
again.
it'll take weeks for us to tell all the stories we got.
Yeah.
I know we're
Yeah.
going to bring y'all on today with
Yeah.
this film.